Και από το Στρασβούργο επιστρέφουμε εδώ στο ξεκάθαρο μήνυμα προς την Τουρκία ότι θα πρέπει η ίδια να καθορίσει ποιες είναι οι επιδιώξεις της έναντι της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης που απευθύνει μέσω του Αντένα η αναπληρώτρια Υπουργός Εξωτερικών της Πολωνίας. Βρισκόταν στην Κύπρο για σειρά επαφών και επισκέψεων με αντικείμενο τον απολογισμό της Πολωνικής Προεδρίας του Ευρωπαϊκού Συμβουλίου και τη συνέχεια που θα δοθεί στο τρίο με την παράδοση της σκητάλης από την Δανία στην Κύπρο. Σε αποκλειστική συνέντευξη στην Διευθύντρια Ειδήσεων του Αντένα Λικοτζαμάνη αναφέρθηκε στις προκλήσεις που περιμένουν την Κύπρο και στα ανοιχτά θέματα της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης που θα κληθεί να αντιμετωπίσει το επόμενο εξάμηνο.
Madam Minister, thank you for this interview. I would like to ask you for an evaluation of the Polish presidency of the European Council and the work done by the trio. Since we are actually at the end of this trio with the beginning of the Cyprus presidency in January.
First of all, many thanks for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be able to give this interview. Poland, Denmark, and Cyprus cooperated closely already for the third time in one trio. I think it's a very symbolic trio for the European Union, showing how diverse our union is. Denmark looking to the north, Poland looking more to the east, and Cyprus obviously looking more to the south. I think we encompass the variety of European perspectives, but we also look eye to eye on many subjects in the European cooperation. Poland has concentrated mainly on security. And I think one of the most important successes of the Polish presidency was the increase of spending, of security spending basically for the European Union for the years to come. We have also started some processes which the Cypriot presidency, to be launched on the 1st of January, will take over. Probably the most important one is the negotiations of the multi-annual financial perspective, so the 7 years budget of the European Union. It will be not only a decision about finances, it will be about priorities of the European Union for the next 7 years. And here our big responsibility lies on the shoulder of Cyprus, but I'm very much convinced that Cyprus will do a great job and handle this portfolio very well. Another issue which the Polish presidency started or tried to start and give a new momentum is the enlargement process. We have done our works in the whole context of the enlargement policy, looking both at the Western Balkans and at the Eastern neighborhood, mainly at Ukraine and Moldova. A modest progress was achieved. We're particularly proud of what was possible with Albania and Montenegro, but we hope that during the Cypriot presidency, even more progress can be reached, in particular with countries such as Ukraine.
I would like to ask, what would you think was the biggest challenge the Polish presidency faced? And based on that, what would be your advice to the Cyprus presidency in order to be able to face those challenges as well?
I think it's always very difficult to play the role of an honest broker in a very diverse union. My advice, but this is something obvious to say, is to be an honest broker by the Cypriot presidency. I think every one of us understands that this is crucial to bring consensus about and define a landing zone between very different perspectives of the member states.
Talking about honesty, you mean on the goals of the country and the presidency in comparison to what is maybe the best for the whole of the European Union?
I would rather say finding what is the best, finding the priority and define it in a way which is acceptable for everyone in the European Union. So one has sometimes to set its own national interests aside for the sake of this European consensus. I'm sure each and every presidency understands it and does a very good job in that. What I think is very important is also the diverse perspectives we bring. Cyprus will bring its own sensitivities and perspectives to the European table, and I think this is always a very good way of looking at the Union from different corners. It's the 6 months where each and every member state has the chance to influence the work in Brussels.
You did describe before how Poland faces the east, Denmark, the north, and Cyprus, the south. Would that also define on the themes a presidency is affected by, maybe? And I'm talking about outdoors, if I can say that effect.
I would say a presidency is always a mixture of domestic wishes and expectations, what the presidency wants to bring to the table as their own, let's say, important priorities. But it's also about the external context. And we work in a world which is changing. We see changes in the global policy. We see, for example, the new American security strategy. We see an even stronger and more, let's say, stronger China with a very clearly defined agenda. Europe is somehow in between, and we have to be able to define our interests in the best way possible, and we also need to be operational. So I think what the Union really faces at the moment are crucial decisions about how to make our own priorities operational and feasible.
And talking about your main goal, what you described before, the security aspect and the future, what would you describe is the way to the future of the European Union with the focus on security, economic security, democratic security, and of course safety in terms of what's happening in Ukraine or here in the neighborhood of Cyprus?
I think we first of all need to raise awareness in European societies that this proclaimed end of history after '89 is actually not happening, and that we lived in a very safe and stable phase which seems to be over. This 3 decades after the end of the Cold War seemed to be a very peaceful coexistence time. There were crises, but they were far enough for us not to concentrate on them. Nowadays, this is changing. I think the war of Russia against Ukraine has completely changed our perspective. But it's not only the conflict in the east. Here from Cyprus, you look towards the Middle East. We all see what is happening in Gaza. There are conflicts in Africa. Let's just call Sudan. We face multiple crises around the world. Europe needs to be better prepared. We also live in the digital age. This completely changes the perspective. Our societies need to be more resilient and more agile when it comes to handling, for example, false narrative, disinformation, the so-called FIMI, or basically fake news in the media. We sometimes speak about media literacy. I think this is also a subject for the European Union to handle. If we don't want to give ourselves into the hands of populists, we need to be better equipped and we need to raise awareness of our societies.
And what about the political dialogue within Europe in terms of relations also with other big players in the world, naming the United States, for example?
I think this is also a very valid point. We will have to, first of all, do our homework. The American presidents were right to say that Europe needs to take more responsibility, in particular in the security context. We do our homework. Expenditures are rising when it comes to defense and security. I think Europe is on the right path, but this is by far not enough. We also should be more clear in defining our priorities and being clear which direction we are heading, what we really wish for. Trade will be an important issue. We search for new trade partners. Free trade agreements are completely a new agenda for the European Union. 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we discussed when Poland and Cyprus headed the European Union for the first time. This was a very abstract agenda. We spoke about it, but this was not of prioritary nature. Now we speak about finding new markets and making our economies more competitive. I think competitiveness and deregulation, so removing red tape, these are definitely agendas where the Cypriot presidency will also have a strong focus.
You did mention that among your priorities as presidency was also enlargement. I did not hear you talking about the relations between EU and Turkey, which is also a candidate country, although with a different manner than all the rest you discussed before. I would like to ask you, what's Poland's view on the future of these relations, having in mind also what's the position of Cyprus?
First of all, let me say Poland and Cyprus joined the European Union the very same year, the very same moment. We were part of the so-called Big Bang enlargement of 2004. I think this brought our countries also closer together, and it was a very good development. I think the enlargement policy, also seen from the Polish perspective, was one of the most successful European policies ever. It enlarges the sphere of peace, security and stability. Therefore, we say enlargement policy needs a new momentum. There are still countries, be it in the Balkans, be it in the East, like Ukraine or Moldova, knocking on the doors of the European Union, asking to be part of the same success story. When it comes to Turkey, I think the crucial point is what Turkey really wants. Whether it wants to become a European member state. There were times where we had the impression that Ankara was serious about this enlargement policy. Nowadays, I think it's for them to decide which direction the country is heading.
Mm-hmm. And a final question on your discussions with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs while you were here, and of course, what you think are the prospects, aspects, ways to improve the bilateral relations between Poland and Cyprus.
I'm pleased to say that we really had a very comprehensive discussion with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus. She is a good friend, and I'm pleased to say that we spoke about a list of subjects. On the bilateral level, I think we can still improve our trade exchange. There is room for improvement, but I'm also pleased to see that the bilateral relations actually is developing very well. In different aspects. We spoke, for example, about cyber cooperation, or the cooperation in cyber sphere, where there is, I think, for the third time, an event organized jointly by Poland and Cyprus for small and medium-sized companies cooperating in the sectors. I'm proud to see that the Polish tourists are among the biggest groups of tourists arriving in.
It was actually the biggest this year.
Happy to hear that. I was told that last year they were number 2 and growing. It's more than 300,000 tourists. I think around 350,000 per year already. So it's a big number. I hope that I can use this occasion also to invite your compatriots, the Cypriots, to visit Poland and see our beautiful landscapes from the mountains to the sea. Poland is a very diverse country. I know that it's popular for city breaks, but we have also more to offer. There is also a lot of things happening on the people-to-people exchange. We would like to see more Cypriot tourists studying in Poland. Poles are learning Greek. I hope the more will do so. It would be also fantastic to see Cypriots learning Polish. So I think there is still room for improvement, but I think this is really an exceptional and very close cooperation. We look eye to eye on very many aspects of the international agenda, starting with the European cooperation.